Yes, welcome back. I did not finish reading the Intel Core processors, so let's do that. So we got 9 meters, 2 hours 40 minutes, and this camcorder takes more than 24 hours to charging. So I don't like to wait for that. So let's get back to my bed and try to make a finish. It's just a lot of numbers, numbers. But this is how a computer processors is. I have to turn my computer. I think I will make some video in my language, Danish, about this Intel Core processors. I will do that later today. So that's just a lot of numbers. Yes, but I need a minute to get back to my bed, because I cannot pull my table. This camcorder is like 100 grams. I think I have read this like more than 1 year ago. And of course I cannot remember all this many numbers. So let's try finish so I can upload.
Processor branding model cores, threads, basic clock radial core turbo boost 2.0 turbo boost max 3.0 core i9-11900K8, 16. 3.5 GHz, 4.8 GHz, 5.1 GHz, 5.2 GHz, 11900KF, 11900, 2.5 GHz, 4.7 GHz, 5.0 GHz, 5.1 GHz, 11900F, 11900 T1.5 GHz, 3.7 GHz, 4.8 GHz, 4.9 score i7-11700K, 3.6 GHz, 4.6 GHz, 4.9 GHz, 5.0 GHz. 11700KF, 11700, 2.5 GHz, 4.4 GHz, 4.8 GHz, 4.9 GHz, 11700F, 11700 T1.4 GHz, 3.6 GHz, 4.5 GHz, 4.6 score i5-11600K6, 12. 3.9 GHz, 4.6 GHz, 4.9 GHz/11600KF. 116,002.8 GHz, 4.3 GHz, 4.8 GHz, 1160 T1.7 GHz, 3.5 GHz, 4.1 GHz, 11500 2.7 GHz, 4.2 GHz, 4.6 GHz, 1150 T1.5 GHz, 3.4 GHz, 3.9 GHz, 11400 2.6 GHz, 4.2 GHz, 4.4 GHz, 1140F. 11400 T1.3 GHz, 3.3 GHz, 3.7 GHz. 12th generation. Alder Lake. Alder Lake is Intel's code name for the 12th generation of Intel Core processors based on a hybrid architecture utilizing Golden Cove high-performance cores and Gracemont power-efficient cores. 153. It is fabricated using Intel's Intel 7 process, previously referred to as Intel 10nm Enhanced Superfin, 10ESF. Intel officially announced 12th Gen Intel Core CPUs on the 27th of October, 2021, and was launched to the market on November the 4th, 2021. 154. Architecture changes in comparison to Rocket Lake. CPU. Golden Cove High Performance Cores, P-cores. Dedicated floating point adders, 155. New 6-wide instruction decoder, up from 4-wide in Rocket Lake / Tiger Lake, with the ability to fetch up to 32 bytes of instructions per cycle, up from 16, 155. 12 execution ports, up from 10. 512 reorder buffer entries, up from 384. 6 wide op allocations, up from 5. Op cache size increased to 4K entries, up from 2.25K. AVX-VNNI, a VEX-coded variant of AVX512VNNI for 256-bit vectors. AVX512, including FP16, is present but disabled by default to match E-cores. It still can be enabled on some motherboards by disabling P-cores, 155, 156. 18% IPC uplift. 157. Gracemont High Efficiency Efficient Cores, E-cores. E-cores are organized in 4 core modules. L2 cache is shared between E-cores within a module. 256 reorder buffer entries, up from 208 in Tremont. 17 execution ports, up from 12. AVX2, FMA and AVX-VNNI to catch up with P-cores. Skylake-like IPC. 157. New instruction set extensions, 158. Up to 1 TB /S interconnect between cores, 155. Intel Thread Director, scalable hybrid arch scheduling, a hardware technology to assist the OS thread scheduler with more efficient load distribution between heterogeneous CPU cores. 136. Enabling this new capability requires support in operating systems. Microsoft added support for Thread Director to Windows 11, 155, 159, while support to Linux was merged in kernel 5.18. 160, 161. Up to 30 megabytes L3 cache, 155. Nomenclature up to 8 P-cores and 8 E-cores on desktop, 157. Up to 6 P-cores and 8 E-cores on mobile, up 3 designs, 157. Up to 2 P-cores and 8 E-cores on ultra mobile, up 4 designs, 157. Only P-cores feature hyper-threading. GPU. Intel Xe, Gen 12.2, GPU. Up to 96 EU on mobile and 32 EU on desktop, 155. I/O. LGA 1700 socket, 162, for desktop processors. BGA Type 3 and Type 4 HDI for mobile processors, 136. 20 PCIe lanes from CPU, 16 PCIe 5.0 lanes, 155. 4 PCIe 4.0 lanes, 155. Chipset link, DMI 4.0x8 link with Intel 600 series PCH chipsets. DDR5, DDR4, LPDDR5, and LPDDR4 memory support up to DDR4-3200, up to DDR5-4800. XMP 3.0, 163. Dynamic Memory Boost, 163. Integrated Thunderbolt 4 and Wi-Fi 6E support, 164. Desktop processors, Alder Lake S. All the CPUs support up to 128 GB of DDR4-3200 or DDR5-4800 RAM in dual-channel mode. 165. Some models feature integrated UHD Graphics 770, UHD Graphics 730 or UHD Graphics 710 GPU with 32/24/16 EUs and base frequency of 300 MHz. By default, Alder Lake CPUs are configured to run at turbo power at all times, and base power is only guaranteed when P cores/E cores do not exceed the base clock rate. 155. Max turbo power, the maximum sustained, and GT1S. Power dissipation of the processor is limited by current and / or temperature controls. Instantaneous power may exceed maximum turbo power for short durations, less than or equal to 10 ms. Maximum turbo power is configurable by system vendor and can be system specific. CPUs in bold below feature ECC memory support only when paired with a motherboard based on the W680 chipset. 166. Asterisk by default, Core i9-12900KS achieves 5.5 GHz only when using thermal velocity boost. 167. Processor branding model cores, threads, base clock rated Turbo Boost 2.0 Turbo Max 3.0 per Smart Cake Power Price, USD. Pip model max. Clock rate base turbo Core i9-12900KS 8, 16, 8, 3.4 GHz, 2.5 GHz, 5.2 GHz, 4.0 GHz, 5.3 GHz, 7701.55 GHz, 30MB150W241W $7391290K, 3.2 GHz, 2.4 GHz, 5.1 GHz, 3.9 GHz, 5.2 GHz, 125W $5891290KF $564129002.4 GHz, 1.8 GHz, 5.0 GHz, 3.8 GHz, 5.1 GHz, 7701.55 GHz, 65W202W $4891290F $4641290T 1.4 GHz, 1.0 GHz, 4.8 GHz, 3.6 GHz, 4.9 GHz, 7701.55 GHz, 35W106W $489 Core i7-12700K4, 3.6 GHz, 2.7 GHz, 4.9 GHz, 3.8 GHz, 5.0 GHz, 1.50 GHz25MB125W190W $4091270KF $384127002.1 GHz, 1.6 GHz, 4.8 GHz, 3.6 GHz, 4.9 GHz, 7701.50 GHz, 65W180W $3391270F $3141270T 1.4 GHz, 1.0 GHz, 4.6 GHz, 3.4 GHz, 4.7 GHz, 7701.50 GHz, 35W99W $339 Core i5-12600K6, 12, 3.7 GHz, 2.8 GHz, 4.9 GHz, 3.6 GHz, 1.45 GHz, 20MB125W150W $289126000 KF$264126000 3.3 GHz, 4.8 GHz UHD 7701.45 GHz 18 MB 65W117W $223126000 T2.1 GHz 4.6 GHz 35W 74W12500 3.0 GHz 65W117W $202